Mediated conversation on SAFM.
26 minutes now to 9. Good morning. Well, over the last few years, you may have started to hear of a service called Starlink. It's a service that uses satellites around the world to provide internet access. In particular, the Western media has been talking about how this has been used in Ukraine. Russian forces have tried to disrupt communications there. People have used Starlink to stay in touch. The Ukrainian military has been using the service as well. Well, the service is largely owned by someone from Tshwane, Elon Musk, and appears to be growing. There's been a lot of talk. It may or may not end up providing services here. Yesterday it went live in Nigeria. But there are problems, and in particular, our laws around licensing a communication service include a requirement that the company be 30% owned by local people as part of our Black Economic Empowerment legislation. So then, how does Starlink work? What kind of service can it provide? Could it be the future of the internet? Could it be more reliable than fiber networks? And could it be more reliable than even cell phone networks that rely on electricity and don't operate properly during load shedding? In other words, if you have electricity yourself, would you be able to use Starlink even if no one else in the country was able to use electricity? First this morning, what is Starlink and how does it work? Admire Moyle is the news editor at IT Web. Then, how do the satellites work? Is it difficult to keep so many satellites in the air at one point? Eugene Avenant is the chief engineer for space operations at the South African National Space Agency. Then, how good could these services be? What impact could it have on our internet access and the industry generally? Paul Colmer is an executive member of the Wireless Access Providers Association. And finally, will it all happen? Arthur Goldstuck, the founder of Worldwide Works. We start then with the news editor at IT Web, Admire Moyle. Admire, good morning.
Good morning, Stephen. Thanks a lot for having me on the program. And good morning to the listeners.
Sure. What is Starlink?
Starlink, as you said in your introduction, is a satellite internet constellation operated by Elon Musk's owned company, SpaceX. It's now operating in about over 40 countries, and it was launched in 2017.
How does it get signals back to the ground? What kind of equipment do you need to use it?
So basically, there will be ground stations here on Earth. So they relay the internet data to the satellites. It's low orbit satellites located about 400 above the Earth in space. Then those satellites send back the internet data to users on Earth.
So would you use something like a satellite dish, like a DSTV dish in a way? As I understand it, they have dishes that are a little bit smaller than that.
Yeah, exactly. It's the same technology that is used. So it looks like those satellite dishes that will be located here on Earth. Those are the ones that receive the signals from the satellites.
And you can use it anywhere. You don't need fiber. You don't need a working cell phone tower anywhere near you.
Yes, you can use it anywhere, but ideally it's more suitable for the remote parts of the world, like your rural places in South Africa, where fiber is not a viable solution for the operators to deploy. So satellite would be ideal for those places. What
kind of speed would you get? I mean, would it be like using fiber? Would it be like using an old modem?
The speed range from, if I'm not mistaken, from about 50 megabits per second to about 200 megabits per second. So yeah, it cannot be like, we can't really say it's a competing technology to fiber, but it's almost like a complementary technology that can also be used as a backup to this fiber solution.
So by way of comparison, if, for example, you're on 4G in Sandton and Joburg, you're probably getting around 100 megabits maybe. If you're on fiber Wi-Fi in many places, you're probably getting about the same. It would be that speed or faster.
Yeah, the speeds are comparable in that satellites can be a little bit slower because of the distance that is there between Earth and the satellites. As I mentioned earlier, that they are about 400 kilometers. So satellite will be a little bit slower in that regard. But with time, I think the technologies will get better and will get like almost similar fiber-like speed.
You say it's in 40 countries. It's in Nigeria. I presume there's a huge market in Africa.
Yes, this week Starlink announced that SpaceX announced that Starlink will be available in Nigeria, which is the first African country to get the service. I'm not really sure about the regulatory framework in Nigeria, but Starlink was supposed to, it had opened pre-orders for the South African market in 2021, but because of the global chip shortage that affected the whole world during the pandemic, it pushed back the launch of the service in South Africa. But now, according to the link that I've just seen with the map for where it's available, the service available, it doesn't show the exact, it says service date for South African launch is actually unknown. But with other African countries, you can see, for example, in Mozambique, it says the service will be available in the second quarter of 2023, countries like Namibia 2024, but for South Africa, we don't have a definitive date yet.
Admire Moyle, thank you. News editor at IT Web. You with SFM. Your mediated conversation around Starlink continues.